Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You just can't cure the human condition with a pill, or can you? And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do because you're listening. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can find us over at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, basically wherever you get your podcasts. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to follow us on social media. You can find us on the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Instagram, as the kids call it, for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to write about it and talk about it, we'll love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a real interesting one. It is a little bit of science fiction. I'm a sucker for some good science fiction that just hit video on demand services last week on June, well, a little more than a week ago, on June 17th. It's called Guidance, and it's the story of a young couple on a trip to the country for some R&R or what have you. They use this thing called Guidance. It's a device made to create enlightened people, but as time goes on, they learn how to subvert guidance and lie and manipulate each other. But it's all in hopes of saving what they're afraid to lose the most. It's each other. This is a real sort of thoughtful, really interesting piece of science fiction that deals with sort of manipulation of emotions and sort of concepts therein. And I mean, it's a fascinating thing, and it's a foreign language film shot in Chinese from writer-director Neysan Sobhani, who we had the unique pleasure of sitting down and talking with and asked him about sort of the origin of the story and so very much more. And again, check out this film. It's one that'll spark a lot of conversation after you watch it. But first, enjoy our talk with Neysan, because between you and me, it's a pretty good one.
Well, I mean, obviously, first off, thank you for the time today. I appreciate this.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. No, my pleasure.
No, I mean, obviously, I love the film. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely my kind of science fiction. But I mean, walk me through sort of the origin of the story on your end.
The core concept of having an omniscient device, as it were, or presence inside you, guiding you. And then I thought, why don't we actually make that more as an offensive device as well, not just defensive, just for dramatic purposes. That might be fun. That idea was offensive, meaning it can detect deceit, it can detect a lot of things. That idea was around, just bumping around my head for a very long time. I think most people may even, first of all, the idea of a truth-telling device has been around forever. That's nothing unusual. Yeah. But in terms of how we do it, and you using the tech and then having it actually interact with you, some people would say, well, that's your conscience. So I thought, why don't we just take that and run with it? That was around for quite a long time, maybe 7-8 years. And I had taken that concept and it was already part of another, a much more hard sci-fi screenplay I'd written, feature I'd written. But I felt, this deserved its own treatment. It deserved its own place, its own story. So I kind of took it out of there, which was great because that gave the other story much more room to breathe. And this one was developed on its own.
And I mean, I love that you basically had this set up as a set piece, and it was always more about the back and forth between the characters as opposed to sort of the grander ideals, which are kind of sitting in the background. I mean, obviously, when you're working on a certain degree of a budget, that helps, but it definitely felt like it added to the power of the story. Can you walk me through, I guess, sort of that angle on it, and specifically casting as well, because I mean, when you're relying on just a handful of people, it's you got to find the right people for the right parts.
Yeah. So I don't want to lose track of your questions. The first one, okay, so casting, let me just remember that one. I'll get to that in a second. The first one's a very good question, point and question, because with something like this, I think it's very easy to kind of to get, I guess distracted is the right word, and start doing a little bit more than really what it's kind of like a 2-year-old thinking they can run 100 meters fast. No, we remember this is a 2-year-old, and it can do what it can do. If we try to do more, it's going to stumble and fall, but it might seem like a great idea. So everything is connected to this very basic principle, but I think human beings, we just get too excited. And so the trick was to always pull back and go, wait a second, are we overreaching here? Because I really want the focus to be on the relationships and the decisions they're making, and for the audience to see as much of themselves in these characters as much as possible. So distraction was my biggest enemy, and it was always something I had to fight against myself, and fight, like debate with others around me, whether it be the VFX or, if I show us all of a sudden a flying car just because it would be interesting science fiction, everyone will be, oh wait, that's fun. Where's that car? Where's that flying car going to? And I'm like, no, come back. I want you to focus on the story. I think there's room for that if your story can deal with it, but ours didn't, and our set pieces couldn't. So it was very streamlined. It was very, focused, and to let your imagination create the world. We give you enough information for you to kind of create it, but at the same time, not to show too much to distract people. You know what I mean? So it's tough. I don't know. Some people may feel we hit the balance, and some people may feel we didn't. But I think we tried our best. And then you had a question about casting, right?
Yeah.
Did I answer that one actually?
No, you didn't. No. But
yeah. No. I mean, the first one, does that make sense?
Oh no, totally. Because I mean, it dovetails into my question about casting, because there's really these interesting ideas that are at play with people going back and forth, and sort of the necessity of, we all insist we're going to tell the truth to one another, but we don't. And then there's it's sort of keeping that balance together. Finding actors who definitely understand the material is very important.
Yeah. Again, well, with casting, very fortunate. There were all these brilliant actors came from casting calls, actually. So very fortunate. And I feel like, the fact that more people mentioning this to me, I feel it feels validating that, we really did, I felt completely 100%, so happy with everything they did. The amount of dedication and time they put into this in terms of months of rehearsal beforehand. Again, we were doing something quite different for China. This is not something, Black Mirror-ish kind of approach. Is not. They've seen shows like this. They've seen science fiction, but it's not often that you get to see it with Chinese faces speaking Chinese. So that's a kind of a slightly different thing. So we're kind of pioneering a little bit in that area, but yeah, we're very lucky with our actors, Sonja, Harry Song, and Francesco. Francesco Chen is Italian Chinese, Harry Song is Australian Chinese, and Sonja, the lead actress, who really anchors the whole film, is incredible, I feel. We spent months and months just working so closely together on figuring out where we're going with the direction of this character, and her journey and her redemption and all that. She's from mainland China.
Now, I mean, there is something fascinating about doing a very sort of, I don't want to say socially conscious, but socially aware kind of science fiction film, because I mean, obviously we live in a day and age where, there's an app for that. Oh, you feel down, there's a pill for that, or there's a this for that, or there's a that for that.
Yeah.
And this definitely talks against that. But I mean, I'm kind of curious in terms of making this in Chinese. This definitely feels like it's maybe a bit more of a forerunner than some other material. Was there any sort of pushback on that front?
In what sense? It was a forerunner?
Well, in terms of trying to talk about, control issues around, centering around control.
Tell me a little bit more. I'm not sure.
Just because in terms of when I was watching the film, it was definitely, to me, the app felt very much like guidance, as it were, felt very much sort of a designation for control, on controlling people, on making the world a better place, kind of thing, in that sort of idyllic fashion, which never ends up going right.
Yes, right. Yeah. I feel audiences can come to their own conclusion on that point, because
that's fair.
Many people have come to the conclusion and they really feel this is what the film is saying. You'd be fascinated to know there are quite a few people who don't come to that conclusion after seeing the film. And that actually was it was a revelation to me. Revelatory, yes. It was very revelatory to me. And so I thought, that's interesting. And I guess in the back of my mind, I didn't want to hit the hammer too much on the head as to what we're really trying to say. I want it to be nuanced, but at the same time, it's kind of clear. But where people will go and how they interpret things, you can't completely control that, as much as you try to guide them. No pun intended. So it's interesting. You came to, I think many others have come to the same conclusion you have. I would probably come to that same conclusion. I feel there's, this is, but this theme, or this thing that you're talking about, again, is so familiar to us in the literature, whether it be in the East or West, mostly the West, though, I think you'll find it's a theme that pops up, right? Of control and alternative, and an alternative way of looking, alternative facts and all that stuff. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
There's a freedom of storytelling as well, especially in science fiction, where you can put an idea there and let it just sort of go where it would. I mean, how is that for you as a storyteller to not necessarily be telling something that's A to B to C, that is, you're presenting us with this thing that it can be interpreted how you want, as opposed to sort of there's a happy ending, everyone rides off into the sunset kind of thing.
That's the beauty of science fiction, isn't it? I mean, you can take look, the idea of lies and truth and deceit and forgiveness and vengeance. They're everywhere since the beginning, the dawn of human beings. So, but what science fiction can do is literally repackage these in such a way that you think you're looking at it for the first time,
right?
All over again, and so it forces your brain to rethink and question certain beliefs you may have had, or assumptions or prejudices that you may have had. So by the end of the film, just by virtue of using these few devices, they're not that mind-blowing, but just using it in a different way, creating a different world and creating a rationale for that world. So many people have come, so many debates have started. I noticed when I in the first few cuts that I showed to people, I noticed people started at first commenting, giving opinions, and then the person next to them would be like, "What? That's what you thought?" Well, I think blah blah, this, and whether it be on what the character should have done, should do, what is it telling us about technology, just as you were asking, and they were shocked at how the other person was thinking, what they're thinking, and so the big debates, arguments would happen around me, and I just sat back going, "Okay, I think we have something. This is exactly what I was hoping it would do." And so that's why the value of watching it with more people is, I mean, if you watch it on your own, it's great, but you'd be surprised when you watch it with others and you ask them certain questions. That's why I left the movie with one big question.
For sure.
There's actually on screen, literally, there's a big question. And I made sure that subtitle was right in your face. But yet it's nuanced enough that I don't know what the answer is going to be for people. And everyone has a different answer, but that's supposed to be the entryway to really where the whole thing begins. The end of the movie is where the whole thing begins for me.
You're right. Really. Yeah, I mean, and that's film, that's storytelling. It's supposed to spark discussion. Now, I mean, I'm kind of curious because, especially on a shoot like this, I'm guessing you may or may not speak Chinese. I don't know, but I mean, do you have language barriers on a set like this, on a shoot like this, or do those fall away in favor of sort of the story at the end of the day? Does everyone end up speaking the same language by the end of the day?
Definitely with your key personnel, language doesn't become as important. Look, I do speak Chinese. I've been there a long time. My Chinese, though, is not as if it's like a native speaker. Is nowhere
Right.
close, to be honest. But I can function pretty decently. I can communicate. I can get things by. But I think I read somewhere, and I think we all kind of know this. I mean, language, when it comes to communication, language only accounts for 60%
Right.
of communication. So,
Yeah.
so when you're in the same world, in the same universe, occupying the same plane, same wavelength as everyone else, communication is just, it's just the language just becomes a supplement.
Right.
So case in point, the two male actors speak perfect English, but our lead actress, she doesn't speak a word of English. She may understand a little bit. But she's literally the anchor of the film. So we had to I spent months and months just with her, going through her character, whatever, and we had to communicate, which we did. So that's before shooting. During shooting, not really, because we had done almost 90% of the work before shooting anyway. So shooting would just come to I'd already shot, the film was shot in my head. I thought, okay, it felt like redundant. I was like, what are we doing here now? Oh, look, I guess we got to put it on film.
Oh, we actually have to do it.
Yeah. Which is a pain. I was like, oh, this is a pain. I got to wake up and actually do this every day. But yeah.
Now, I mean, just to start putting a bow on this is something I always like to ask. But I mean, I got to wonder, is there a movie that you saw at a younger age that had the light bulb go off for you and made you want to be a filmmaker?
Well, what movie didn't, for God's sake? I mean,
that's a good answer.
I remember, every single one. I think the very first, I grew up partly in Sri Lanka, in Southeast Asia before we had to leave because of the conflict there. But I think the very first movie I ever watched, and I thought, what is this? And I think it was the only cinema in the entire country had just opened. I think it was Snow White, Disney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, it was just they were showing all but science, Twilight Zone. I'm talking about the black and white Star Trek.
Right.
There's Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, and then Asimov, Bradbury,
Serling, all that stuff.
Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke lived down the street from us.
Oh wow!
And my uncle was friends with him, and we would go there, and there's Arthur C. Clarke, and I was a kid, and so 2001, Space. I mean, all these things. I feel like there's a nod to 2001 in there. I don't know if people will quite notice, but the whiteness of some of the sets is
I spotted
a tribute
to
that. And but I tried to flip it where you have that character appearing, Sujia, the tech entrepreneur, in all white in a very sanitized world, but then when you see the real him, he's in a lush environment with expensive furniture and so on and so forth. So anyway, whereas in 2001 you had the fully white, and then you had the expensive furniture and beautiful artifacts in that environment, but I separate. Anyway, that's just a tiny little nerdy thing, but yeah.
Well, you know what, man, I think you've made a film that's definitely in that same ballpark, in that same canon, because I mean, at the end of the day, when you have science fiction like this, like what it's supposed to do is spark conversation and make people think about the human condition, which is sort of really the art of storytelling at the end of it all. And I mean, I think you've made a beautiful film, and just, man, congrats on the work, and thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you. That's very, very nice of you to say. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.